Good morning from downtown Cleveland. It's a marquee matchup on the Hill as Sonny Gray and Corey Kluber take the hill. Kluber is the reigning American League Cy Young Award winner and is having another fine season. And Sonny Gray is one of the best young arms in the majors. Athletics are looking for the series win as they head into the break and wrap up this first half of the 2015 season. It's the A's and the Indians next. Well, the first half of this 2015 season comes to an end today at Progressive Field here in downtown Cleveland. And we got a fun pitching matchup. Corey Kluber for the Indians and Sonny Gray for the Athletics. So not a bad way to end the first half. It's the final game of the series, and it's the rubber game of the series. It's the A's and the Indians coming up on Comcast Sportsnet, California. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Oakland A's baseball. Along with Ray Fosse, I'm Glenn Kuiper. So Sonny Gray, the All-Star, makes the start today. He's looking for his 10th win, and it's just always fun when Sonny pitches. We look forward to his starts.
You know, it's amazing. 2 years ago, he was in Pittsburgh making 2 relief appearances to get his feet wet. 2 years later, he's an All-Star pitching this final game before the All-Star break. We know what he's capable of doing. Leading the American League with the lowest earned run average. Great curveball. He has a great slider that he will throw. A fastball both sides of the plate. A great changeup. Just an outstanding pitcher, and representing the Athletics and the American League for the first time that he's making the All-Star team. But an outstanding pitcher. Great way to go in trying to win his 10th game before this All-Star break.
And Corey Kluber's not an All-Star, but he is the reigning American League Cy Young Award winner. And he's a big, strong guy. He's got great stuff, and he's a strikeout machine.
Well, the strikeouts, that's the important thing. Last year, 269 and winning the Cy Young Award. This year, the numbers aren't there as far as winning games, just 4, but still a strikeout machine as the rest of the starting staff for the Cleveland Indians. Great curveball. He'll elevate his fastball, and he's the type of pitcher that if he's on, like Sonny Gray, this could be a game that both pitchers work very effectively and don't give up a lot of runs. The A's just hope they can come out on top after winning last night.
All right, so Ray, it's the day before the All-Star break. Rain is coming. The umpires are going to be looking for strikes, so this is a good day to pitch, and we probably will indeed have a pitcher's duel. Up next, we will check in with the guys in the A's pregame live studios, then back to Cleveland for lineups and first pitch.
Roughneck, California, is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Taste the new black pepper cheeseburger today, only at Jack in the Box. And by Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places.
Well, the bullpen, relievers heading out to the bullpen. The Indians have taken the field, and we're just about set to wrap up this 3-game series in Cleveland. It is the rubber of the game of the series. Game time weather presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open daily. It is 77 degrees, just a light breeze, but there is rain moving into the area, and we're just not sure exactly when it will arrive and how much it will be. So that's an issue for today's game. Let's look at the lineup for the Athletics. It's Billy Burns in center. Stephen Vogt will catch. And then it's Ben Zobrist who's going to DH today. Josh Reddick is the cleanup hitter. Ike Davis hits 5th. Laurie 6th. Sogard 7th. Simeon 8th. And Samfold gets a start. He will hit 9th.
And it will be the reigning Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber on the mound for the Indians. And we saw an assortment of his pitches in our open, and Corey this year with the strikeouts, but not nearly the record that he had last year when he won the Cy Young Award. He won 18 games last year with a 2.44 earned run average, so the ERA up a little bit. The win total not there, but that also could be a problem that the Indians are having scoring runs. Still a very good pitcher, and as we have seen with 2 very good starting pitchers, and Corey Kluber is the top of the list when it comes to that. Fits in the final game.
Defensively, it's Brantley in left, Bourne in center, Murphy in right for the Indians. Urshela, Lindor, Ramirez, Santana on the infield. Jan Gomes back behind the plate today. Corey Kluber on the mound. A's come in 40 and 50 on the year. They're 2-3 on this road trip. They're 22 and 24 away from home, so they'd like to hit the break with the series win over the Indians. The A's will return to action on Friday night at the Coliseum. So Burns steps in. Corey Kluber has finished the warm-up pitches, and we're set.
Well, I think you said it best, Kite. Strike zone should be pitcher friendly. So hitters might also be thinking swing early. This guy always does.
And he slaps it foul, does Billy Burns. So we're underway from Progressive Field. Much smaller crowd today than the last 2 nights. A good crowd, 28,000 each game. There was some fireworks after the game, but a smaller gathering for this afternoon's matchup.
And I don't think the possibility of rain is keeping them away either. I think it's just 2 very good nights on Friday and Saturday. Fireworks both nights.
There's your umpires. Chris Siegel is calling balls and strike. Nelson at first. Diaz at second. Porter at third. Billy Burns swings and misses. 93 miles an hour. So I'm sure the umpires are in close contact with the grounds crew here in Cleveland. Whatever or what you believe about the Doppler, but they're talking around 2 o'clock. There's a chance of rain coming in. Pitch up and away. 2-2 the count.
I think that when you and your brother and I played here at the old place down on the lake, and the Bozzards, Marshall and Harold Bozzard were the hit groundskeepers, and they would call the airport and they'd find out, because they didn't have Dopplers back then. They didn't have all kinds of weather forecasts. So he would call the airport and say, how's it look out there? Well, this is what's going to be happening. And that's how they got the weather report for downtown Cleveland. But you could also realize that there's always a cloud hanging over the stadium. It's true, coming right off the lake, and brought in a lot of weather.
And the airport just a little bit west of here.
Yeah. Let's see, the charters now fly out of downtown Burke Lakefront, which is good. Very close to the park, and maybe 5 minutes away.
Another foul ball by Burns. So the A's with a good win last night, 5-4. Scored 3 in the 8th and then hung on. Tyler Clippard getting the save.
You like the rallies that begin with 2 outs. You get a lot of hits and runs scored with 2 outs. That really makes it a special night. And it was for the A's last night with their 3 runs that they scored in the 8th inning. And the unearned run turned out to be a big one. And kind of just like the home run that Stephen Drew hit off Fernando Abad on Wednesday turned out to be a big run because the A's scored 2 in the 9th. Last night, the Indians scored 2 in the bottom of the 8th, and that was it.
Payoff pitch to Burns. Again, foul down the left field line on a high fastball.
He's actually got a full count. He's seen more pitches in this at bat than he saw all of last night.
And that one tapped right side. Ramirez, the second baseman, has it. The long battle goes to Kluber as he gets Burns to ground out. So 1 out here in the first inning. And that'll bring up Stephen Vogt.
Now, Billy Burns is eventually going to be drawing walks, and he might have swung at ball 4 on one of the foul balls down the left field line. But right now he's aggressive, cannot take his aggressiveness away from him and let him continue to play the game the way he does.
Is it just me, or is Corey Kluber really slow?
He's really slow.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I needed your support there. That one hit high in the air to right field. Murphy near the wall, leaps, and he caught it. Wow. Took a home run away from Vogt, and Vogt gets to second base. He can't believe it. That wall out there is about 8 feet high.
Got a hanging breaking ball at Keiper. We always see outfielders, and whenever they can go back to the wall, Murphy played it perfectly. It's high enough that he could get back to the base of the wall and then jump straight up. He did not let the wall stop him by jumping into the wall, went straight up, and he robbed, and you could see the reaction of the fans in right field. Nobody knew until they reacted. They could see that he caught it. Even before Murphy brought it down, the fans reacted. They knew it, and that said it all. As Kluber got help from his defense, taking a home run away from the All-Star.
So some type of review.
Is it an umpire's review? That's the thing.
It certainly looked like a clean catch from our replay.
Ladies and gentlemen, that previous play under review, officials.
I wonder if they thought maybe it hit the wall first, but clearly in his glove, snow coned it, brought it back. So that's a little surprising. And I would think umpires do have the option of reviewing without a challenge from a manager, and Bob Melvin I don't think even came out. Yeah, it's a home run. I mean, it's an out. I mean, that's surprising.
So 2 outs for Zobrist.
Crew chief review. So that's Jeff Nelson, the crew chief. Could have looked at our replay, right?
We could have yelled down to him that it was a good catch.
Well, the fans said it. I mean, that's you just watch the fan reaction, and they said it all. But and there's the difference of a towering fly ball versus a line drive. It'd have been great for the All-Star Stephen Vogt to get a home run his first at bat, first pitch, but David Murphy played it perfect.
So first pitch strike to Ben Zobrist, hitting .256 with 5 home runs, 31 RBIs. Zobrist still firing the series, 3 for 7. A couple singles, a double. He's walked once. He scored a run. And now he's behind in the count 1-2.
So you think the 12-second rule with nobody on base does not apply to Corey Kluber? because the old speed up pace of game time. I mean, this is a very slow pace. You're right, Kipe, and it's just taking the time to get set himself. But they're supposed to be, once you get the ball back, 12 seconds to deliver the next pitch with nobody on base.
Zobrist gets jammed, rolls it past Reddick in the on-deck circle. So 2-2 the count to Zobrist.
Sam Folds is in the lineup talking to Stephen Vogt about the pitching of Kluber. Saw one pitch and he said he hung it. Just missed it.
Zobrist hits a high fly ball down the left field line. Urshela, the third baseman, is going to make the catch. Wow. A couple of terrific plays by the Indians here in the top of the first inning. Murphy and Urshela. And the A's do not score. Lineup for the Indians. Kipnis will DH today. He's the all-star. Lindor at short, Brantley in left, Murphy in right, Santana at first, Gomes is the catcher, Urshela at third, Michael Bourne in center, and Jose Ramirez, just called up, gets a start at second.
Sonny Gray's second start since returning from Salmonella. He did not go on the disabled list, but missed 12 days looking for win number 10. No decision in his last start, but for Sonny, still a very impressive and a low earned run average. He was the opening day starter for the A's last year, 2014. And that was a game in which the Indians defeated the Athletics on March the 31st. And made another start here against the Tribe and won that game as McAllister did not fare very well. So Sonny Gray trying to finish off his first half and go to Cincinnati with Stephen Vogt, his catcher, and represent the Athletics in the All-Star game.
Pitched 7 innings in New York on Tuesday. Got a no decision. That's the game the A's won. So trying to get win number 10. He's got the best ERA in the American League. So he will take terrific numbers to Cincinnati. Kipnis, big bouncer. Sogard has it. That's out number 1. So the leadoff man, Kipnis, is retired. Defensively for the A's, Sam Fuld with the start in left field. Burns in center, Reddick in right, Laurie, Simeon, Sogard, and Davis on the infield. Vogt is your catcher. Billy Butler's getting the day off today. The ball loose way out in center field. So one away for Francisco Lindor. Lindor is 2 for 8 in the series. He's got a double. He's knocked in around. And first look at The young shortstop, just 21 years old. Indians will be at the Coliseum at the end of July. Here's the ERA leaders: Gray, Keuchel, Santiago, Price, Kazmir. Keuchel's an all-star. Santiago is not. Giovanni Gallardo having a good year after a little bit of a rough start. He's pitching today for the Rangers.
Price is an all-star, right? Detroit. Did he make it?
I think he is.
Well, as Bob Evans said, Stephen Vogt, he will take a few off his body, and he said Josh Phegley could catch 15 games. Never had a ball hit off him, but Stephen Vogt gets back there and he gets 15 shots in one game.
Of course. So Lindor is retired. 2 outs here in the first inning, and that'll bring up Michael Brantley.
But Stephen Vogt, and of course this being the final game before the All-Star break, and Bob Melvin wanted, and Stephen Vogt said, catch Sonny Gray. And you look at this year, only 3 times has Phegley started behind the plate when Sonny Gray has been on the mound. So Stephen, part of the success of Sonny Gray as far as familiarity, and you know, a lot of times when that happens, nothing against Josh Phegley, but when you don't catch a pitcher a lot, that pitcher can get comfortable with the pitches called by a catcher. And so Stephen Vogt puts down whatever fingers, and he knows how Sonny pitches. He knows his strengths. And that is the important thing about pitching, that you pitch and call a game to the pitcher's strength, not the hitter's weaknesses. Sonny Gray is good with all of his pitches.
Brantley hits a high fly ball left field. Fold is into foul territory, but he's got just enough room. He makes the catch. An 8-pitch first inning for Sonny Gray. We're on to the second, no score. Now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag CSNCA DataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Second inning, Reddick, Davis, and Laurie against Corey Kluber. Kluber saw his right fielder and his third baseman make great plays in the top of the first. Pitch to Reddick is a strike on the outside corner. Reddick hitting .288, 11 home runs, 51 RBIs. He is 2 for 6 in the series. hit into left field, the base hit. So on an 0-2 pitch, Reddick goes the other way.
And I'm going to repeat myself, but there again, there's the shift. And they're playing him to pull the ball, yet Kluber, a very good control pitcher, threw a pitch outside. And once it becomes more of a hitter, look where the shortstop's playing, and where if he's playing a normal position, it's an out. But I think you have to make some adjustments when the count favors a pitcher versus a hitter. And if a hitter is 0-2 and a smart hitter, he's not going to gear up and try to unload. So Josh Reddick, see the number of hits to left field, and that's why the shift is not playing him as drastically to the right side, but he's just a smart hitter, and he's proving it with the opposite field is.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, you would think if they're going to pitch a guy outside who is in a protect mode, and we've seen Reddick now, and he's not afraid to go the other way, you're surprised that they wouldn't drop back into a more conventional defense.
And you see outfielders. Let's say a count goes in the favor of a hitter. You'll see an outfielder go one way or the other because he may be more aggressive. Less aggressive with 2 strikes, he will go the opposite direction.
Well, I think it brings up the question with the shift is it's clearly that the shift is based on all the reports of where the hitter hits the ball.
Thank you.
As opposed to where is the pitch supposed to be.
Or the pitch count, too. You know, what is a pitch count? Where is the pitcher throwing the ball? And I think that's a valid point that you bring up because they look at the end result, not how it got to that point.
Stride by Davis in the count 1-2.
Well, he is a strikeout pitcher, and that has some movement, although elevated. It froze Ike, could not pull the trigger, and as a result, he gets a strike.
Missed outside, 2-2. Kluber has, let's see, 6 10-plus strikeout games this year. This is his 19th start. Two pitch to Davis. It's hit right to Lindor, who flips it. Ramirez coming across the bag, and that's a double play. Ramirez had a little ways to go to get to the bag and turn the pivot.
See where he's playing and thought about, well, flip it to the second baseman and timed perfectly by Ramirez to come across the bag. And those are some of the variations of the ways that an infielder, middle infielder, can turn a double play. Use the bag, go across the bag, and you try to avoid a slide. And that's what Ramirez did, as he did not stay close enough to the bag to let Reddick disrupt his throw to first base.
So 2 outs for Laurie. Laurie hitting .284. He's got 8 home runs and 37 RBIs. Was not in the lineup last night. Pops this one up into the seats. So the count 1-1. Laurie hitless in his last 9 at bats. That's a good breaking pitch in Kluber. He's got a good one.
And he has an assortment of breaking pitches that throw in addition to good fastball, and that curveball thrown perfectly.
2 pitches hit toward third. Urshela has it. Side retired. So the double play helps Corey Kluber. We're going to the bottom of the second. It'll be Murphy, Santana, and Gomes. No score. Redwood? Visit realstrongredwood.com. No score, bottom of the second inning as the Indians come to bat against Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray had a 3-up, 3-down first inning. Facing David Murphy. Murphy drills one down the left field line. It is wow.
Did I hit our microphone down the left field line?
It's something. Santana to follow, and then Gomes here in the second inning. Let's see.
Or is that just the wall? Tearing off the wall.
Good sound effects, though.
That's great. Speaking of walls, I asked Mark Cann, I said, how's the wall in left field? You know, he banged up against it. And he said, it's padded, but it's not. He said, that's a hard wall behind it. Knocked the wind out of him. You know, that ball he made, the catch he made in left field last night, and kind of slowed down a little bit. And he said it actually knocked the wind out. But see, unlike the Coliseum, that's a temporary fence, so they take it down for football. So it's padded, but it also gives. This is a wall, and it's padded, but it does not give. And he felt it last night.
Count remains 1-2 to Murphy. That wall out in left field is 19 feet high. All the way to pretty much center field. Out of town scores come up out there. And Murphy swings and misses at a pitch up and in. And that's the first strikeout for Sonny Gray. So one away here in the bottom of the second. Lowest ERA at the All-Star break in Oakland A's history. By the Blue, Justin Ducher, Jim Nash, Catfish Hunter, Matt Keel, and then Sonny Gray. Sonny's got a chance to lower that today.
Probably not the 142, though. I don't know that, I mean, that was a special year for Vita Blue. Cy Young, Rookie of the Year. I mean, he did it all. Pitched a no-hitter, got a new Cadillac.
Justin Ducher, that's the season he went to the All-Star game.
He actually went as a starter one year and a reliever the next, or vice versa, but two different appearances.
Santana shows bunt. So he looked over, saw Brett Lawrie playing the shortstop spot, saw a lot of green grass and brown dirt to lay a bunt down, but the pitch was inside. 2-0. Lawrie now comes in, although, you know, even coming in, I don't know that he would be able to make the play in a bunt.
So what does he do? Hits into the shift. He tries it once and moves the third baseman, and then hits the ball to the right side.
I mean, really. So Lawrie sees him bunt. Lawrie comes in, what, maybe 4 or 5 steps, but he still was not going to be in position to really make any kind of play in a bunt.
Well, the one thing about Sonny Gray, he's such a great athlete that with the shift, he probably can cover the ground between the pitcher's mound and the third base line and over towards third base, but still a good enough bunt gets it past him. It's going to be a base hit.
So 2 away. Here's Yan Gomes. Gomes was 1 for 4 on Friday night. Did not play last night. Sonny Gray, 22 putouts. Leads all pitchers.
Counts a couple of pop-ups that he's caught also near the mound. He's called off everybody.
Well, I think statistically that's something that will certainly help Sonny Gray if he's thinking about winning a Gold Glove. But if you just put the eye test on Sonny Gray, I mean, he's really good. And I say really good meaning as a defender on the mound, which you certainly can be. And he falls off a little bit to the first base side of the mound after he delivers. He's such a good athlete. He's very quick. Rockies. Hits one high in the air, shallow right, long run for Reddick. Sogard also going out, and Sogard makes the catch. Side retired. 6 up, 6 down for Sonny Gray as we are on to the third. No score between the A's and the Indians. California is brought to you by the new movie Southpaw, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's in theaters everywhere on July 24th. One of the famous spots in Cleveland, right, Ray? The Higbee Building in the public square.
That's right. Terminal Tower. One of the great stories about that. I can't remember the catcher, but he said, I can catch a ball dropped from the top of the Terminal Tower. And he did not. Because you drop a ball, it does not go straight down. Gravity will take it down, but it's not going to go straight.
Sogard towards center. Michael Bourne makes the catch.
I hope that catcher had the full set of gear on, too. Helmet, mask, everything. Everything. Because it was swirling coming down. It is a tall building. I worked in that building in real estate.
Did you really?
Yeah, in off-season of 1971.
The Higbee Building.
Well, the Terminal Tower.
Yeah,
they have offices. The Higbee Building at that time was a department store.
Yeah.
But the Terminal Tower, I had a real estate firm there that I tried to work in real estate off season. Didn't work out well, but
that's Terminal Tower.
That's it. And right below that is the rapid transit that goes to the airport. So you can take the rapid transit to the airport when you go out. It goes also to the east side. Runs under the Terminal Tower. It's like Grand Central Station in New York, where above that is the Hyatt, let's see, the Hyatt Hotel, Grand Central Hyatt.
0-1 to Simeon. Big chopper toward Lindor, gets the good hop and throws out Simeon. 2-1. Well, you remember the movie Christmas Story, right? Very famous movie. The shopping scene was filmed in the Higbee Building.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, the house from Christmas Story is still here, and it's like a tourist attraction. Yeah. You can go see it. I don't know if the lamp is still in the window, but it is a pretty good movie.
Well, that Higbee Building now is something to do with a horseshoe.
Yeah.
It's a casino.
And you can gamble there.
Yeah.
First pitch to Fold is on the inside corner for a strike. Well, downtown Cleveland in the last 10 years has come a long way. Made a lot of improvements, and one of them is the big casino. 0-2 to Fold, so Corey Kluber jumps ahead, trying to have a quick inning.
I do know when I played here in the early 70s, it was work in downtown Cleveland and go home after work. And that's why we drew about 6,000 a game. Plus, we're pretty bad.
People weren't having dinner outside the municipal stadium.
No, and on the streets and beyond the Progressive Field here. No, it just did not happen.
They weren't going to the Wahoo Club.
It was called the Stadium Club then, but not quite like the Wahoo here.
Tapped slowly to second. And Jose Ramirez takes care of it. And Corey Kluber has a 7-pitch third inning. So we're on to the bottom of the third. No score.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years. Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in True HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details.
So Sonny Gray, Corey Kluber, both sharp early in this game. No surprise there. Shella swings at the first pitch, and he grounds out to Simeon. 1 away, so 7 in a row retired to start the game for Sonny Gray. And that'll bring up Michael Bourne. Indians come in 42 and 45, so they were hoping to get to the 500 mark by the All-Star break, but that will not happen. They're 10 games back in the Central. In fact, they're now even with the White Sox. The White Sox have been playing well as of late. Like the Cubs the last couple days.
Those games are on the north side, right? And Wrigley, I think
it's in Wrigley, yeah.
Nice little road trip. Stay at home and let's go to the north side instead of the south side.
Hayes will experience that soon. And in fact, Bourne's going to jog this one off. But after the break, Ray, the A's will play 17 of 22 at home.
Top of the right foot, and that probably will require shin guard when he approaches the plate next time, assuming he stays in.
So 17 of 22 at home. So 5 road games, but 3 of the 5 road games are in San Francisco. So it's a nice stretch right after the break starting on Friday.
And the other 2 in Los Angeles against the Dodgers.
So quick trip to play the Dodgers. In the second half of the season, the A's will play 71 games, 37 at home, 34 on the road. Swing and a miss. Bourne strikes out. Second strikeout for Sonny Gray.
It's a hard slider that Sonny will throw, and unlike his curveball, which has a little bit more of a loop, this is the hard downer, it goes down quickly, and hitters just find it very difficult to make any sort of contact.
14.9 pitches per inning, 6th fewest in the American League. So that's an interesting number because Sonny Gray's a strikeout guy. He's got over 100 strikeouts this year. But to be a strikeout guy who doesn't throw a lot of pitches per inning, that's about all you can ask for from a starting pitcher. Sonny certainly works deep in the games. I think what happens with Sonny, and one of the reasons for that last note that we gave you, is he just doesn't get knocked around. He doesn't have innings where he's throwing 25, 30 pitches because he's given up 3 or 4 hits. That just hardly ever happens. That's part of it. Very high ground ball percentage. So his strikeout pitches also work as pitches he can get a ground ball with. Great downward movement on a lot of his pitches. He's going to get a ground ball out there. So Sonny Gray is 9 up, 9 down so far in this game, and we're moving to the 4th inning. No score, and the A's will have the top of the order. Padres draft pick, and then a big trade, and he ends up with the Indians 2012, 2013. You wouldn't think that it was coming, but it is. It all came together last year. 18 wins, 269 strikeouts. The Cy Young Award winner is Corey Kluber. And remember, it was he and Felix Hernandez, and I think most people, Ray, going into maybe the final month of the season, thought Felix was going to win it.
And one of those losses against the A's early in the season. Remember, the Indians opened the season in 2014 at the Coliseum. Justin Masterson started against Sonny Gray, and then Kluber pitched in that series also and lost. The A's beat him 6-1. So he took off and had a tremendous season, especially winning the AT, and the number of strikeouts, 269. I mean, you're looking at a boatload of strikeouts for the right-hander.
Inside corner 1 and 2, and he had a great second half, and a lot of people were surprised that he was named the Cy Young Award winner.
And he made the minimum salary last year. But then he signed a long-term contract this year. This spring, they locked him up. Because one of the things, too, that last year when he won the Cy Young Award the win at the Baseball Writers Association present the award, and you fly to New York and make the big presentation, he told them, he said, I will not attend unless my catcher, Yan Gomes, comes with me. That's great. And he said the family as well of Yan Gomes. And so he took care of everything of Yan Gomes going to New York expenses, the whole thing. And it's basically saying I could not have done it without Yan Gomes. And so a credit to Corey Kluber for recognizing his catcher.
Kluber got 17 first place votes for the Cy Young. Felix Hernandez got 13. It was a close vote. Kluber ended up with 169 points. Felix Hernandez 159 points in the voting. Two and two to Billy Burns, who grounded out to second to lead off the game. Fastball high, 3-2.
This might be a record. Twice today he's gone to 3-2 count.
16 pitches he's seen. That is a record.
That's right.
We don't know if it is, but it is.
He saw a total of 15 last night in 5 at bats. I counted those.
We're calling it a record. And a good at bat, and Burns is aboard. So a little bit more on Corey Kluber and what he did last year. 235 innings. And the fourth Indian to win the Cy Young Award. Gaylord Perry in 1972, Sabathia in 07, and Cliff Lee in 08. So what can you tell me about Gaylord Perry in 1972?
About 40 starts and a 24-16 record.
Right.
40 starts, 40 decisions, 342 innings pitched. 29 complete games.
So he really didn't want anything to do with the bullpen coming into one of his games.
No, absolutely not.
So, I mean, when a manager came out, and I don't know who the Indians manager
Can't
was.
ask for money.
I mean, how could you come out there and take Gaylord out?
Well, he would actually come out. He said, Gaylord, how do you feel? And he says, better than the guy in the bullpen.
There you go.
And he would stay in the game. I mean, if you just, you know, how the statistics, baseball reference, you look at Gaylord Perry 1972, and maybe Jeff will do it, but I mean,
it's an amazing season. Vote to right. Murphy is not going to get this one, and that baby's gone. Vote homers, and the A's lead 2-0. So number 14 for Stephen Vogt.
Boy, it's so close his first at bat, and almost to say, forget it, not going to get this one. And the 19th against the Angels, his last one. So it had been a little bit of a drought. But Stephen Vogt, Friday night off, and I think he said it best last night, okay? So, you know, just off his feet, just to forget about mentally everything. And last night, a couple of hits the opposite field. Today, one caught by Murphy, robbed him. And this one, no doubter. And maybe for Corey Kluber walking Billy Burns, maybe that's set it off, because Billy Burns usually hits his way on, walks very infrequently. Congratulations to Stephen Vogt, who will be going to Cincinnati, and all those numbers just keep adding up. That's 14 and 56, getting close to 290. And the pitch to Stephen Vogt did not wait around. Cutter inside, lost the location as Yan Gomes wanted it outside, and right into the wheelhouse of Stephen Vogt.
And 2 pitches high to Zobrist. Talking about Kluber and strikeout machine, where he does not have a strikeout today.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's surprising. But it seems to be his location's off a little bit, just as the home run pitch that he gave up.
First pitch there, but low, 2-2 to count.
You know, Cap, we've talked about the possibility of rain here in Cleveland, and for a team in a game in which it may be shortened because of rain, who knows what could happen. But it's important to get on the board, and the A's did that in this inning. And after Kluber had retired everybody, actually the minimum with a double play with Davis up that, so he gets his first strikeout. Ball running away from Ben Zobrist and out of the strike zone, got under it, but Zobrist tried to make contact, could not.
So 1 away for Reddick. Reddick had a base hit to left field in the second inning. Now we talked about it a little bit, but highest chase percentage this season. Corey Kluber's on that list. So Carrasco last night basically swinging at pitches that are out of the strike zone.
Exactly. You probably get a lot of strikeouts that way. Just simply.
No question.
You feel comfortable going at what looks like a strike, and all of a sudden you swing and go back to the dugout and go out and visit Adam Roden in the video and say that wasn't a strike, but yet he swung it.
Reddick rolls over on that one. Scooped up by Ramirez. But we were saying, Ray, that I know you mentioned it, but Stephen Vogt and Sonny Gray and Jason Kipnis will be traveling to Cincinnati together, right?
Yep, exactly.
So they will do that after the game. Get to Cincinnati this evening. So when Kipnis comes to bat next inning, Vogt can get, make sure you got, sandwiches and chips,
beverages, plenty of beverages.
So
maybe not so much chips and sandwiches.
So we're good.
And by the way, when he does come up, that's interesting because the battery of Sonny Gray and Stephen Vogt and Kipnis, they're all three going to Cincinnati following today's game in a party bus. So I guess they're supposed to have a party on the way.
Mike Davis, a shot just fouled on the first base line. Cincinnati, about 3.5 hours from here. I guess it's been raining there. It's supposed to rain tomorrow as well. It's the same front that's coming through here, but it's a little. The rain's a little heavier south of here. Mike Davis hit into a 6-4-3 double play in the second inning.
One thing about Great American Ballpark, they have real grass, no turf. It's not a multi-purpose stadium as Riverfront was, which a lot of those cookie-cutter stadiums back then. Riverfront, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, they all had the bowl effect but played football, and that's why they're all turf.
Two pitches fouled straight back. At the time, I guess it seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
All those stadiums are gone now.
They are, because all the stadiums, well, the new ones, this was a multi-purpose stadium down at the Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and now both baseball and football have their own stadium. So really, with a matter of a mile probably down on the water to here, you have baseball, basketball, football, brand new stadiums.
3-2 now to Ike Davis. 2 outs. Stephen Vogt with a 2-run homer here in the top of the 4th inning.
Okay, that in itself brings a lot of attention to downtown because you have sports basically year-round in downtown Cleveland. So while people will support all 3 teams, that's going to bring business into the downtown, and it has changed dramatically.
Strike 3 called on the outside corner. But damage done as Stephen Vogt, the All-Star, hits his 14th home run of the year. So we're going to the bottom of the 4th. The Yankees now have a 2-0 lead. 1 lead. Sonny Gray has retired the first 9 in the ball game. Sonny Gray fan on the left. So it'll be the top of the order. Kipnis, Lindor, and Brantley here in the fourth. A couple of strikeouts for Sonny. I guess the A's made it official, Ray, that Sonny Gray will not pitch on Tuesday. And again, it's up to the individual pitcher and the organization. If you pitch on this Sunday, which is today, All-Star Game Tuesday, it's not an automatic you're not going to pitch. It's up to you. But generally, teams and players are going to say no. Max Scherzer pitching today. He said no, I'm not pitching Tuesday.
And there's a pretty good chance, and we've discussed it this weekend, that Sonny Gray, as his season resumes next Friday, it's his 5th day.
Yeah.
And he might be the starting pitcher. They have not necessarily announced, I don't think, the rotation. They're still trying to figure it out. Which Jesse Hahn is going to probably be back up simply because he's on the disabled list, and he actually be activated this weekend because he's retroactive to the 2nd of July, his last start. So it's working out well, and that's what 4 days will do. It gives rest to everybody, plus they can readjust the starting rotation if they so desire.
And every team does it.
Yep. Especially if you have in the middle of the season, beginning of the season, you have multiple righties or lefties together, and you kind of split them up a little bit because nobody likes to start the same type. The A's just really right now have just one lefty in the rotation, and Scott Kazmir.
And the A's also have an off day on Monday, so
that's a good point.
They will play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Off day Monday. Get back to work on Tuesday. Ike Davis has it. Underhands to Gray, and that's out number 1. All right, our true story brought to you by McDonald's, Ray. It was August 2nd of 2001. It's not Jermaine Dye we're going to talk about. It's the chase of man.
Wow.
So 14 years ago, and the young lady who was just walking by.
And let's just go to a game, and here's the ball, and that poor guy who took a hitter.
Was she even coming to the game or just walking by? Who knows?
Who knows? I hope she came to the game after getting souvenir, you know.
That gentleman, he was okay. He was okay, and that's the most important thing. But the curb got him. Watch the curb right there.
Right there. And there goes the baseball. At least the lady could have given him the baseball.
Nope. Taking it.
She went home and said, "Look what I caught."
I made a great play up against the fence. Two 2-0 to Francisco Lindor. Pitch is high. So we just got word that the replacement for Sonny Gray is Hector Santiago, the left-hander from the Angels.
Good.
So that's good information. And he is having a nice year. So is ERA just a little bit ahead. So a 3-0 pitch called a strike. Get some raindrops here at the ballpark. Up the middle, and that'll get through for a hit. So that's the first hit for the Indians, and it's a bouncer up the middle by Lindor.
So Sonny Gray takes a deep breath with the 2-0 pitch. It was out of the strike zone, and then threw a strike. And then, you know, you have a 2-run lead. You don't want to take a chance and walk a batter, so he elevated a fastball and tried to reach up and grab it with his bare hand. Could not. Sogard with an effort diving for the ball up the middle. Could not come up with it. And so the first base runner, first hit against Sonny Gray.
So Gray will be in the stretch for the first time as he faces Michael Brantley. Fastball for a strike, 92 miles an hour. The rain gear starting to come out. It's a very, very light. Just barely raining.
On an official game, if the A's are ahead, it's 5 full innings. If the Indians are ahead, 4.5. Right now, the A's would have to play the bottom of the 5th for it to be an official game.
1-1 the count. Murphy will be next for the Indians. And that one sliced down the left field line, and it's foul into the seats. So Gray ahead in the count, 1-2. Brantley hit a fly ball to left field in the first inning. He's 2 for 9 in the series. Lindor, decent lead at first. It's hit towards Sogard, could be 2 out at second, and that is a double play. So Sonny Gray makes the big pitch, gets the 4-6-3 double play, and we're headed to the 5th. A's 2, Indians nothing.
The A's are introducing the all-new Summer Suite Special, available for select games. The Summer Suite Special includes an 18-person suite, 3 VIP parking passes, and a generous food package, all for only $990. For more information, call 510-638-GO-A's or visit athletics.com/summersuite. That could be SWEET or it could be SUI. Sweet. But we'll take the SUITE for $990. That's a good deal. Nice food package, and watch a baseball game at the Coliseum. Your A's in style.
Top of the 5th.
Should be fun.
Lots of home games coming up. Lowry to lead it off against Kluber. First pitch is a fastball that runs in and catches the inside corner. Lowry, a ground out to third back in the second inning, 0 for 1.
I was thinking about David Renetti, who is the vice president of stadium operations, did an unbelievable job in the offseason rearranging the ticket department and the salespeople on the Coliseum side, just down from Steve Finelli. And they have a big area there to sell tickets. And all the home games, just hope they're busy taking orders.
It's a good stretch coming up. Lowry is retired.
Now stepping in for the A's.
What's he going to do for 4 days?
Stretch.
Brett Lawry's got 4 days. I think I heard him say he may play golf someplace, but he'll be sprinting from hole to hole. He may play a round of golf in an hour.
He would be interesting on a golf course.
You mean that quiet sport?
The quiet, relaxing, don't rush sport. Just take your time. Pitch to Sogard, up and away. A's will have the Twins and the Blue Jays coming in. Twins next weekend, and then that off day on Monday that we mentioned, and the Blue Jays Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Josh Donaldson will be back at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Sogard hit a fly ball to center field in the third inning. Minnesota Twins are playing good baseball this year. In fact, by percentage points, they have the second best record in the American League.
Amazing. First year manager Paul Molitor, and that game they won the other night, they were down 6-0, 6-1, 1-8-6 with the newest All-Star Brian Dozier with another walk-off. So Eric Sogard doing what he does best, and that's an opposite field base hit. Solid defense as always, and Sogard just a very compact swing. Doesn't really try to do too much. He has yet to hit a home run. He doesn't really try to think about opening up and pulling balls into the seats. And just having a very good year, especially on the defensive side, coming up with some big hits.
Does he not fit the definition of at the plate not trying to do too much?
Absolutely.
He never really rolls over on a pitch.
No. And so he takes a couple of pitches, gets to 2 strikes, so not a problem. He'll drive the ball somewhere. But I think, and you look at today's game, and again, nothing against anybody when I say this, but Sogard's at second. When you have your best pitcher on the mound, and Sonny Gray is in that category, you want to have your best defensive team. And you know, Bob Melvin, when he looks at the lineup, and again, everybody can play defense, but there's some guys that he just believes that the defense, you have a ground ball pitcher and the range of Eric Sogard at second base. You've got Laurie at third. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into a manager putting out his lineup.
1-0 to Marcus Semien, who grounded out to the shortstop in the third inning. And now 2-0. No walks, make that 1 walk, 2 strikeouts for Corey Kluber. Giving up 3 hits now. One of them the Vogt 2-run homer. Defense pretty straight away for Semien. And that one rolls behind Yan Gomes. He got a glove on it. Did not look like it was in the dirt. We'll see in the replay.
Well, he just backhanded, and he probably knows he's going to be given a pass ball because he just casually went after it to his right. And I think that's the assumption that the pitcher, Kluber, is around the plate enough that that's not going to happen.
Sogard now at second with 1 out. It is a pass ball. Run support for Corey Kluber, lowest in the American League, thus the 4-9 record. Kluber up to, I don't want to say a rocky start, but he had an ERA at 5 after his first 7 starts, so a little bit of a slow beginning. In fact, he was 0-5. Lindor throws to third, and they got him. Sogard tried to slide away from the tag, and Mike Gallego asked Sogi, "What do you think?" And Mike Gallego gave him the side-to-side hand movement, like maybe not. It was close.
Well, and Bob Melvin just pointed to him and said, "Come back because we got the view and it's not going to work." And you know, when you make that move, you're hoping that you can get there, and it's a question whether he got his hand on the bag before the tag was applied by Urshela. So this would be the key right there, and if he's tagged, he's out, and evidently they thought he was.
So 2 outs with Simeon aboard, and here's Full. So it takes pretty good defensive execution down that play, and the Indians did it.
And, you know, for the second out, it was a chance taken by the shortstop, Lindor, because Sogard saw the way the ball was hit and probably thought that he could make it to third, and the throw probably would go to first. And so Lindor actually took a chance, and he won the game because it's now the runner at first base instead of runner at third and 2 outs.
Fold hits a high pop-up foul. So Sam is behind in the count 0-2 to Kluber, who has thrown 74 pitches so far. Billy Burns would be next if Fold can get aboard. Stephen Vogt, a home run in the 4th. That is it was a 2-run shot, only runs in the game. About the same spot. Just a very light rain coming down. Side corner. So strikeout number 3 for Kluber, a hit and a runner left for the A's. Bottom of the 5th coming up. 2-0 A's lead.
Stephen Vogt, he's an all-star, and he hits a 2-run home run robbed by Murphy in the first inning, but this time very deep following the walk by Billy Burns. So Stephen Vogt, his 14th, and the other all-star for the A's, Sonny Gray, perfect until last inning when he gave up a hit, but he has been outstanding so far in this game, trying to pick up his 10th win before he heads to Cincinnati to enjoy the festivities, as he will not be participating. Got a double play to end the last inning. Find out what's possible with AT&T. Call 1-800-PICK-ATT, mobilizing your world.
First pitch to Murphy is a bit outside. Murphy, Santana, and Gomes for the Indians. 8 ground ball outs, just a couple of strikeouts, but I think Sonny Gray minds that out. Look at his pitch count rating. That was pitch number 46, and we're in the 5th inning.
That's 3-0 to Lindor before he gave up the hit, but I mean 2-0 to Gomes, pop out. 2-0 to Kipnis, got him out. So he really has had 1 3-ball count, and that resulted in a base hit on the 3-1 pitch.
That ball is high, 3-0.
You have to wonder, Cap, he had retired the first 13, gives up a hit, and Just have to wonder the intensity level of a pitcher knowing he has a perfect game on the line, no hitter on the line. And then you really have to kind of regroup because you have a 2-0 lead and put a runner on base. There's always that possibility. Does not give up a lot of home runs, but still the possibility. You make a bad pitch, you could tie the game. But an important game for Sonny Gray, more important for the Athletics to try to win this final game before the break after winning last night.
These are 10 games under 500. Payoff pitch to Murphy. Here it is. Reach for it. So the count remains 3-2. Murphy struck out swinging in the second inning. Slaps that one down the left field line. Hit well, but foul. Murphy with that open stance and a leadoff walk. First walk issued by Sonny Gray.
Carlos Santana against Milwaukee got a 3-2 split finger fastball crushed. And that was a 2-run home run in the 8th inning following the A's 3 at the top of the inning. And that made it a 1-run game from the A's standpoint. The unearned run they scored when the ball came in hit Billy Butler in the back. Reddick scored. That's the difference in the game. A 5-4 win by the Athletics. Terry Francona's team will not get to 500 before the break. They're 3 under now after losing last night.
First pitch to Santana in the first strike. Santana grounded out to first. His first at bat. Now Sonny is ahead 0-2. Santana, it's funny, Ray, you watch him swing and you think, hey, he's kind of a free swinger, but he's actually the opposite. Yeah. He's a guy who walks a lot every single year.
Yeah, he's been a very good hitter. Probably the best thing for him is when they moved him to first base exclusive. Did play some third, first, and he was a catcher when he first came up, but probably better suited for a corner spot, and he's at first base now.
Rips that one foul. In fact, interesting note in the Indians notes that since 2011, Carlos Santana has walked more than any other hitter in baseball. But you watch him swing, and I mean, he really takes a rip.
You almost compare a little bit to Jose Bautista as far as the aggressiveness with the knowledge of the strike zone. And while you know both players will swing hard and be aggressive, but they will not swing at pitches out of the strike zone. He holds up a swing and a hard slider by Sonny Gray, and that's one that Sonny usually gets a strikeout. But Santana showing he recognized the pitch, and while he was ready to hit it, went out of the strike zone and he took it for a ball. Nice block by Stephen Vogt.
He really does not strike out a huge amount. Is lifted to shallow left. Fold hustling in, still hustling in. He'll get there. So Santana, dangerous hitter, is retired, and that'll bring up Yan Gomes.
Jammed him nicely, and that's a good pitch for Sonny Gray after the hard slider to get the ball in on his hands, and a weak pop up to left field.
Gomes popped out to second in his first at bat. If the Indians are going to make any kind of move in the second half in the standings, they need Yan Gomes to come alive. A great year last year, 21 homers, 74 RBIs, and a .278 batting average. In fact, he was the Silver Slugger Award winner in the American League, and that's basically the best offensive player at each position.
Right, exactly.
And he won the award.
Yeah. Brian McCann having a better year this year for the Yankees in that category. And Russell Martin back in the American League after being with Pittsburgh. He's now with Toronto. So more offensive catchers. Stephen Vogt. I mean, look at the numbers he's put up this year.
Some good catch. Russell Martin's having a good year.
Another good block by Stephen Vogt. And so maybe the Friday night completely off. Last night he was behind the plate again. And possibly been DHing last night, but opted to catch, which he did, and got a couple of hits. And then today a big 2-run home run in his second at bat. Difference in the game right now.
Tap toward Laurie, who charges, juggles, throws to first. Got him. A very close play.
And you know, if he was going to make that play, Terry Francona with 1 foot on the warning track, maybe to take a look at it. But if he's going to make this play and only have one play at first base, why charge? He could have stayed back with his strong arm, gotten a good hop. But he almost, by charging the ball, took the ball too far in front. He's able to pick it up with his glove and then with a strong arm just barely get Yan Gomes. But it's hit too slowly to get a double play. And the only thing maybe stopping it and getting the lead runner at second. But if your intention is get only one, see, jump to the bag, hit the front, but jumped at it in midair, and Ike Davis caught the ball.
So 2 outs. Here's Urshela. First time the Indians have had a runner in scoring position, and breaking ball stays high, 1-0. John Adams is in the house. He goes to work for the first time today.
John was saying last night when he brought the drum in that you bang loudly.
Loved it. Sogard hustling back, and Sogard makes the catch. Runner stranded. So we're on to the 6th inning from Cleveland. 2-0 A's lead.
A's fans, this is your chance, and what a chance it is to meet all-star catcher Stephen Vogt. Home run today, giving him 14. Stephen will be signing autographs at the Xfinity store, 4104 Grafton Street in Dublin, California, on July the 18th from 11 a.m. to noon. Autographs are not guaranteed, so be sure to arrive early. Now, I'm saying Dublin, California. I had a gentleman in Cleveland said he was watching our telecast and he saw Dublin. He said, "Is Stephen Vogt coming to Dublin, Ohio?"
Or Dublin, Ireland?
Yeah.
No, it's Dublin. Yeah.
But he was watching, and he said, "Man, this game's starting at 3 o'clock. We better hurry up and get there." And I said, "That's our pregame show in California, a 6:30 game." But he was saying, man, I saw a double. I said, Volpe's coming on. Maybe he's coming back here, follow the game. And no, he's going to be at Dublin, California.
That's right.
The Xfinity store. So I want to clarify that, since we have people watching our telecast evidently in the Eastern time zone and areas that another city in a state is called Dublin. But Ireland, I know they want to play abroad for baseball, but they may be going a little bit too far.
Right at the corner of 580 and 680.
Yeah.
1-2 to Burns, Vogt to follow, and then Zobrist top of the 6th inning.
Well, at least I found out we've got some people watching these baseball.
That's right.
You know, even all the way across the country on our Comcast Sportsnet California.
Good looking Indians hat by that gentleman. He's got his glove in the first row. Very close. That's been called a strike a couple times today.
And who knows, Hank, with it being an official game, maybe the strike zone changes. You never know. Not that it would change throughout a game. That hasn't changed.
See, that pitch looked like it was more outside than the pitch right before. Billy Burns, who very seldom doesn't say a whole lot and doesn't argue very often, he did not like this call.
Well, he's been throwing the backdoor cutter. This more of just a fastball, and while it hit the target of Gomes, just question whether he was on the plate or a little bit off. Maybe that angle. And I agree with you, Billy Burns, who has walked and seen a lot of pitches today, a whole bunch of pitches, that maybe a month's worth. And you're right, he very rarely will say anything.
I always thought, and umpires may not like this, but I always thought when a rookie starts to maybe every once in a while disagree with the call, that probably means they feel like they belong a little bit.
Yeah,
because a lot of times they don't say anything early on in their career. That's understandable.
Well, Max Muncy said that. You know, we'd see him walk away and you'd see the frustration.
Yeah.
And I'd say something to him, and he said, "I can't say anything." I said, "Well, you know, maybe at least voice your opinion, because you know the strike zone." And the thing is, the hitters, regardless rookie status or veteran status, they have a pretty good idea of the strike zone.
Yeah, I'm not saying argue with the umpire. I'm just saying, tell them what you think maybe a little bit about. Generally, umpires are okay with that if it's done in the right way. 3-1 to Vogt.
Had an umpire one time who was a pitcher's umpire, and I told a rookie pitcher, I said, I'm going to call a pitch right down the middle. The umpire's going to call it the ball. Don't react. I said, if you do that, if you say anything, you're done. Right down the middle. Ball one, and he looked out. Pitcher didn't do anything.
Good.
Everything was fine.
He listened to me.
This is what your all-star catcher did in the 4th inning after a walk by Billy Burns. Stephen Vogt got a ball that ran in on his hands, and he brought the hands in and put it in the right field seats. That David Murphy, who robbed Stephen Vogt in the 1st inning, looking for another multi-home run game. That did not happen then because he robbed him, but the second one definitely deep enough, and this time he walks on 5 pitches.
So here is Zobrist, who's 0 for 2. He fouled out and he struck out. A little bit low with the first pitch. Kluber thought maybe that was a strike. Reddick in the on-deck circle. 88 pitches for Kluber. Zobrist tried to hold up, and he did.
It's the angle of the bat is what the umpires on the corners look at, and as Diaz thought it was okay. Sorry,
and there's a shot to right and a base hit. Down the line enough that Vogt will go around to third, and the A's have first and third, 1 out for Reddick.
Thank you, Delaire. That is Alan Porter at third. Last Diaz at second today in the rotation. But the check swing on the breaking ball inside. He did not swing. This time a fastball he's able to line hard. And Stephen Vogt hustling. And a lot of times you look at the third base coach, but you also know at times where the ball is hit. You don't have to look. You see where the ball is, and you're going on your own. Mike Gallego would have been sending Stephen Vogt anyway. So first and third, and an A's opportunity to do something with one out in the inning.
So we'll see if Reddick can do that. He's got a single and a ground out so far. He's trying to add on to a 2-0 lead. Kluber with a couple of walks and 4 strikeouts. And Reddick takes low. Astros are leading the Rays 3-2 in the 5th inning. That's McCullers and Moore. Astros trying to avoid being swept. That one's bounced toward first. Out at second, back to first, and that's a 3-6-3 double play. And the inning comes to an end. So the A's head first and third, cannot score. Bottom of the 6th coming up. So pitchers duel, the A's leading 2-0 behind Sonny Gray. They'll face Bourne, Ramirez, and Kipnis here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And so far the rain is held off. He's trying to get this one in and get out of town. Bourne struck out in the 3rd inning. And buffs a bunt, takes a strike. Bourne is 0 for 6 in the series. He's walked a couple of times. As I mentioned, that Astros score, the Rays just scored twice to take a 4-3 lead. So Houston with a half-game lead over the Angels. Angels had a chance to get into first place last night, but lost as the Mariners beat them.
Nelson Cruz bobblehead night in Seattle.
So he had a big night, didn't he?
A huge night.
I saw him make a nice diving catch in the outfield. Angels will play in Seattle and get started in just a little bit. Mariners have won 2 of the first 3 games in that series. It's a 4-game set. Haney and Walker set to square off. Bourne tries to hold up, and he can't, and that's a strikeout. Michael Bourne strikes out for the second time.
For the Indians, now hitting second baseman Jose.
So Sonny Gray, 6-day starts. There's probably a joke there somewhere, but
We're gonna let it go.
we're going to let.
Okay.
We're going to stick to the facts.
Because it is
It's a great day. I really wish it was sunny.
well, he's making it sunny.
Yes, he is. So he likes pitching in the day. Sonny Gray. Just 67 pitches as he faces Jose Ramirez. But I was looking at the Angels' second half. They start the second half with a 10-game homestand. So I'm pretty happy about that. And they play the Astros 9 more times. Tap toward Gray, grabs it, throws, 2 outs.
Well, we know the way the schedule has been set up the last couple of years where you're playing within your division. This is the only trip the A's will make to Cleveland. The Indians will come to Oakland, and that will be it. Central and the Eastern Division teams will only play the Athletics and any team in the West once, home and away. So you're looking at 19 games within your division against every team. So that's why, and that's where it should be. So you're trying to get in the top place in the division. The best way to do that, play the teams within your division. And you hope you don't play teams out of your division at a time when they're hot. And the A's have done that a few times this year.
We've seen it. 1-0 to Kipnis, who has grounded out twice. Good pitch there, right on the outside corner, 93 miles an hour. So 1-1 the count. Ground out to second and a ground out to first for the Indians All-Star representative. Saw your picture today in the Plain Dealer. They had different decades of the Indians and the people who made the All-Star team during the specific decades. It was just a little picture, but it was, you were ripping your mask off, getting set to go for a pop-up.
Well, there's enough.
I think it was actually a drawing. I don't think it was actually a picture. I liked it.
There's enough bigger pictures of what happened on Tuesday.
I don't know what you're talking about. So all I know is you scored the first run and knocked in the second run. That's all. Let's just not forget that. Sogard grabs it. Another ground ball out. That's 11 ground ball outs for Sonny Gray. He is rolling along. 7th inning coming up. 2-0 Athletics lead. A's 2, Indians nothing, top of the 7th inning. The world champion Warriors are already getting ready for next season. A chance to see some of the new talent that might be part of the 2015-16 team. Tune in to CSN Bay Area today at 5:30 as the Warriors take on the Atlanta Hawks live in Las Vegas. Warriors Summer League. Quicken Loans Arena, where the Warriors celebrated their world championship. Probably not a great idea to bring it up too much this weekend. Don't want to.
You guys in the booth think it's okay.
Cleveland fans upset. Had enough heartache in their day.
It's been a long time coming to have a championship here. I can see a parade down Euclid Avenue.
That's exactly where it would be.
Around Terminal Tower and down Euclid Avenue. And through Little Italy.
It'll happen at some point.
East side.
Mike Davis. Pop up to shallow left. Lindor gets out there. Did not have a great sound to it. So Mike Davis is 0 for 3, and that'll bring up Lori.
Actually, as we always say, on a gray day when the overcast skies makes it very, very good to play baseball because there's no glare. There's no worry about the hitter's background, and you don't have to worry about losing the ball in the sun.
First pitch to Lori, just a bit high. 96 pitches for Corey Kluber. Big swing by Lori, who is grounded out and popped out to short. Defense straight away for Lori. Don't see that very often.
I don't see many straight ups of anybody.
Hardly anybody. I would say we see it probably 10% of the time. It should reach the seats, and it will.
It's always amazing to us when you see a young player who may have, you know, just comes up, he's got 4 or 5 at bats, and look at the shift. How many scouts are there with the spray charts at the minor league level?
Strike 3 called, outside corner, 2 outs. Strikeout number 5 for Kluber.
I know you put the K's in red. You got a few backroom K's there, don't you?
Yeah.
Because Kluber,
4 to 5.
yeah, because you see that ball coming back. That's like a 2-seam fastball. It throws the backdoor cutter to the lefties, and he's gotten the called strike 3s and a 2-seamer to Lori. And I think for Kluber to have Chris Siegel behind the plate, who seems to be calling a high strike, it's worked out well for Kluber today.
First pitch to Sogard, just a bit high.
Watch this ball move from outside. It's again has a rotation, and the time that he threw it a little bit above the belt. Of course, the long stride by Brett Lori created the illusion that it was a little bit lower.
So now 153 strikeouts for Kluber. That's 3rd in all of baseball. Clayton Kershaw is first, Chris Sale's second. Just saw where Clayton Kershaw just got named to the All-Star team. He's taking Max Scherzer's spot.
But he should be. And you know, there are certain real all-stars, if you will. I mean,
he's a star.
Clayton Kershaw. I mean, Max Scherzer is awesome, but the fact that he's pitching today makes a huge difference.
That one hit toward left center, but Brantley is over. He's got it. Side retired. So a 3 up, 3 down inning for Kluber. We have reached the 7th inning stretch from Progressive Field. It's the A's 2 and the Indians nothing. 2-0. Bottom of the 7th inning. CSN's Authentic Fan Fridays are back at the Coliseum. And on Friday, the Minnesota Twins are in town. Get a ticket in our value deck behind home plate, an Authentic A's fan blanket, a cheer card, and a $6 food and drink voucher, all for one great price. The best deal in Bay Area baseball is Comcast Sportsnet's Authentic Fan Friday. So A's and the Twins coming up this Friday to open up the second half of this season. So Sonny Gray with 6 shutout innings so far. He's given up just 1 hit. That was a 1-out single by Francisco Lindor. It was really just a kind of a bouncer up the middle. He's walked 1. He has struck out 3. His pitch count is low, and been a ground ball machine so far today. So Vogt fires it down to second base, and Francisco Lindor is set to lead things off. Interesting, though, after the All-Star break, really not that much time before the trade deadline, and as always, there will be a lot of movement. Right now is just kind of hot rumor time.
That's a good point, because you can look at the standings at that point and start looking at how many teams think they can either win a division or be a wild card representative. So 15 teams, you have 5 in each league are going to be playing a postseason. And a lot of times that would determine who's going to be buyers, sellers, and it's kind of going along.
I wonder if, and I like the second wild card, but I wonder if the decision makers, when they decided let's do this, and it's been a couple years now, if they realized how much it would affect this time of year when it comes to the trade deadline.
Well, former Commissioner Bud Selig always talked about parity in baseball.
He's got it. Yeah. Nice big hop for Sogard. Underhands it to first. So that is 12 ground ball outs for Sonny Gray. So he is just cruising along. Indians have had 1 runner get to second base. That was Murphy, and that was with 2 outs. He's retired 7 in a row since walking Murphy in that 5th inning. He's got a gem going right now. Michael Brantley has hit a fly ball to left field, and he is hit into a double play. Brantley toward first. Another ground ball out. Just looking at the fly balls in the air. A couple fly balls to left field, a couple pop outs to second, and that's it. That's it. So 8 in a row retired as David Murphy steps in. Murphy a strikeout and a walk. Goes after the first pitch, gets jammed and rolls it foul.
Against the Yankees at the Coliseum, Sonny Gray had 15 ground ball outs. Followed that in his next start against the Tigers with 13. So not bad, 28 ground ball outs in back-to-back starts for the ace of the A's staff.
Up and away, and the count 1-1.
That's the biggest thing for Sonny Gray, Kev, we saw in New York when he started on Tuesday, coming off the salmonella. Of course, got after the first inning in which he struggled, settled down, and ended up going 7 innings in the game while he got a no decision. Pitched it very effectively, except for the 1 inning, but it took him a little time to get going. Once he did, he was great as always. And this start, no effects of seen whatsoever from the 12 days that he missed.
So Gray ahead of Murphy. 1-2. Simeon playing right behind second base. Laurie playing the shortstop spot. Outfield shifted toward left center a little bit. Look at Sonny Gray hustling off the mound. He'll take it himself. An 8-pitch inning, and we are moving to the 8th inning. Sonny Gray, Stephen Vogt, and the Athletics leading the Indians 2-0.
The 16th annual A's Root Beer Float Day is set for Wednesday, July the 22nd. A's players, coaches, local celebrities, and more will serve fans root beer floats for $3 each. Proceeds benefit JDRF, adding to more than $400,000 the event has raised throughout the years. Sugar-free floats will be available. Special thanks to Dryers Ice Cream, Whole Foods Market, and Zevia, the zero-calorie soda for product donations. Admission is free with your game ticket.
Marcus Semien to lead it off. Corey Kluber back to work. 104 pitches. And the first pitch, a breaking ball that stays inside. Semien has grounded to short and reached on a fielder's choice. So run support. Again, the issue for Corey Kluber. This one's hit high in the air toward left center. And Brantley's under it. And one out here in the top of the 8th inning. Corey Kluber, all you can do is keep pitching, and he's done a good job today. Webb the righty, Crockett the lefty getting loose. So here's Sam Full for his third at bat. First pitch is a strike. Padres and Rangers are just underway in Arlington. It's the rubber game of that 3-game interleague series. Ross for San Diego, Gallardo for the Rangers. Rangers lost 6 out of 7. They gave one away last night. They had a 2-run lead going to the 9th inning, and the Padres scored 3 times and won the game 6-5. To Sam Full, and that one missed outside. That would have been a lot of money. Chris Siegel was going to call that a strike. And good breaking ball, and Sam Full strikes out for the second time. 6 strikeouts for Corey Kluber.
The batter for the Athletics,
The breaking ball, and you look down the dugout and you see Terry Francona, even though the pitch count is up. And again, we talk about this being Sunday. It depends what the Indians decide to do with the rotation, but I think these are the games that manager will say, if I get this pitcher through this inning, maybe the club can come back and score him some runs. Although the run support, as we had mentioned earlier, the lowest at about 2.44 is the run support. So the 0.44 is not getting the 2 either.
Burns slices one foul. Kluber earlier this year, a start on May 13th. It was as dominating as you'll ever see. He pitched 8 innings against the Cardinals, gave up 1 hit and struck out 18.
How about that?
He got 24 outs, 18 of them on strikeouts. That is hard to do. Tapped slowly. Kluber backhands it, fires to first. Side retired. So an 8-pitch inning for Corey Kluber. So we're going to the bottom of the 8th inning. Santana, Gomes, and Urshela. 2-0 Athletics. Great pitching matchup. Vogt, a 2-run homer, the only runs in the game. Sonny Gray, just 1 hit allowed through 7 innings, 14 ground ball outs, and he's sitting on just 82 pitches. Kluber's been very good, but once again getting no run support. So Sonny Gray's got a chance to take it to the house, as they like to say. He'll face Santana, Gomes, and Urshela. Bottom of the 8th. First pitch to Santana is a bit high. 20,611 is the crowd today. An overcast, warm day in Cleveland. So far, the rain has stayed away. A little light rain earlier. 2-0. Santana today has grounded out and hit a fly ball to left field. Swing and a miss, and it's 2-1. 93 from Sonny Gray. And
this is where a pitch count being low for a pitcher pitching the 8th inning is great. And the 1 hit that he gave up to Lindor, other than that 1 walk, and they got the double play with Brantley hitting behind Lindor. That's a huge swing by Santana. Got to check on his first baseman with that big swing, and always concerned about the oblique when you have a swing like that.
Yeah, especially 2 innings away from the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So Carlos Santana says, I'm okay.
Well, it was a big swing, and again, you don't know, groin, hamstring, a lot of different things, but he took his time, and usually the swing, he's kind of back, oblique. I mean, any number of things when you swing that hard.
Sonny kicks, and the 2-1 pitch is hit into the shift. And Sogard smothers it, throws to first, 1 out. 15 ground ball outs for Sonny Gray. So quite a performance today by Gray.
The key is the strikeout, number 3. That means that you mentioned earlier, not a lot of pitches thrown per batter. And that enables him to be pitching the 8th inning with sub-90 pitches. I mean, going under 90 pitching at this point, that is a great ratio and allows you to stay in the game.
Yan Gomes. He slices one foul. Yan Gomes has popped to second and grounded to third. Gomes, lots of power. He's 3 home runs so far this year, fighting some injuries. And now Gray is ahead 0-2. He's been ahead of most hitters today.
Hayes did make a move when Chris Bassett was optioned back to AAA. Dan Otero brought back from Nashville, and the way Sonny Gray is pitching, he may get to enjoy today and 4 days before resuming play next weekend. See what happens in the remainder of this game. But the way Sonny Gray is pitching, it is outstanding for him, and considering where he was 2 years ago. And Dan Straley, similar to what happened with Chris Bassett, pitched right before the All-Star break. So Chris Bassett, 3rd time, has been optioned back to AAA after making 3 starts, 2 for Sonny and 1 for Jesse Hahn. So Dan Otero has been pitching very well at Nashville after being optioned. He is back with the club. Good to see him back, and especially the excellent numbers he put up in AAA.
And a swing and a miss by Gomes. So Gray gets strikeout number 4.
Got somebody to bite at the hard slider, Cap, and that's a pitch that Santana didn't swing at, but the hard slider down, and Gomes went after it. Nice block by Stephen Vogt, keeping it in his glove to be able to make the tag and the out.
11 in a row retired by Sonny Gray as he faces Giovanni Urshela. First pitch, close, but call the ball. Urshela, a ground out to short and a pop out to second. He's 3 for 10 in the series. Trying to establish himself, maybe the Indians' everyday third baseman. And that one's hit to left. Full hustling back near the wall. He'll play it off the wall. He plays it nicely, and Urshela is going to stop at first. But what a play by Sam Full.
Boy, the ball, the wall has kind of an angle from left field over end to straight left field down the corner, and so the carom, and this is important in the 3rd game of the series. Sam Fuld getting the start, but I'm sure he did some work on the outfield because this ball came off at an angle, but he played it perfectly. 1 hop and a 1-hop throw to second base, and that was a smart move by the young Urshela just to make sure he didn't run into an out. He is at first base, and Indians down by 2. So Brandon Moss is going to pinch it for Bourne. So there's the bullet that Terry Francona's had.
He's been sitting on it, and Moss, with the home run potential, steps in as the tying run. He's got 14 homers, 46 RBIs. First pitch is rolled foul. Big swing by Moss. Got a couple of pinch hit home runs in his career, does Moss. A tough series though for Moss. 0 for 7. Takes inside with the fastball. So 95 pitches for Sonny Gray. Most he has thrown this year. 119. It was in Texas. That was the 7-walk, 10 strikeout game.
7 innings.
And he hung in there. And Moss belts one to center, but Burns is going to get there. Makes the catch, side retired. So a hit and a runner left, and we're headed to the 9th inning in Cleveland. 2-0 A's lead. Hello Kitty is now an Oakland A's bobblehead, dressed in an A's jersey and wearing elephant ears. 15,000 fans can pick up and hug the Hello Kitty bobblehead. It's coming up on Saturday, July 18th. Visit athletics.com/tickets today. So that's next Saturday at the Coliseum. That's a good A's fan right there. Jersey, t-shirt underneath. And last but not least, the rest of the outfit. When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. Kyle Crockett comes in, young left-hander appearing in his 6th game. So Corey Kluber gets no help today, and he pitched extremely well. One mistake.
This infield has taken a beating today with the ground ball outs. It was at 15 by Sonny, 11 by Kluber.
Yep.
So maybe they need the time off to be able to get the field back in shape.
So Crockett's first pitch to Vogt is a strike. Outfield changes. Murphy goes to left. Brantley to center, and Moss stays in the game at right field. So Bourne is out. Vogt, Zobrist, and Reddick here in the top of the 9th inning. Interesting afternoon for Vogt. In the first inning, he hit a ball over the wall that Murphy reached over the wall, caught it, took a home run away from him. And then in the 4th, he did hit a home run. Nothing here, though, as he pops out to Santana.
Well, Stephen Vogt would be the first to tell you, while he hit a 2-run home run to give his pitcher a lead, he is more pleased with the way he is handling Sonny Gray behind the plate, and Sonny Gray will be going out for the 9th inning. Yes, so it's his game.
Yep.
Kluber, a very good game. Fortunately, made a mistake to Stephen Vogt to hit a 2-run home run.
Ben Zobrist has a hit today. Big fastball right there on the outside corner from Crockett. Zobrist bounces one. Lindor ranging far to his left, throws wide, and Zobrist is on. I didn't think Lindor was even going to get to it, and he did, and then he spun around and threw a little wide.
Well, it was a very good play. You could see the potential of this young man up the middle, and of course with the shuttle on the left side. Nice spin throw, just happened to pull the first baseman Santana off the bag, and then smelling a hit, and good hustle for Zobrist. A couple of hits for him.
So here's Reddick, who takes a pitch just off the plate. Taps that one foul as Gomes scrambles after it. For the first half for Josh Reddick. I think he's happy with his numbers.
I think he would prefer to be heading south instead of going to the southeast to his home, as he felt he has put up numbers worthy of an all-star, but unfortunately one of many as you look at the all-star selections that there's going to be disappointments in. I think Josh Reddick can put up the numbers, but it comes down to numbers and how many outfielders, and it's one of those things. So he can enjoy the time off and get ready for a strong second half, and maybe put up comparable numbers and really have a great year.
Reddick rips that one to right field. Moss back, and Moss reaches up right in front of the warning track to make the catch. So that's the second out here in the top of the 9th inning, and it'll get Ike Davis in at bat. In the 9th inning, make that the bottom of the 9th inning. It'll be Jose Ramirez, Jason Kipnis, and Francisco Lindor. 8, 9, and 1, or make it 9, 1, and 2 in the lineup for the Indians. And it looks like it will be Sonny Gray's inning. Ike Davis today has hit into a double play. He has struck out, and he has popped to short. Joe looking for his first hit. Foul territory. And into the dugout, and Urshela goes into the dugout. Let's hope he's okay.
He made the play early in the first inning off Zobrist, the foul ball that he did not even look to see how close he was to the side rail. This time also going into the dugout. And that is your own dugout, guys. You can't help prevent him from falling down into the dugout. Maybe they figured his youthfulness will enable him to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But when he ran into the sidewall beyond the tarp, or by the tarp, that was scary in the first inning, but a great play. So after Derek Jeter made his play in New York and Josh Donaldson in Toronto, I mean, all third basemen feel that they did do something special.
0-2 to Davis. Sonny Gray looking for his 3rd career shutout.
Had the one last year, game 162 at the A's needed badly to have them go against Kansas City in that 1-game play-in.
Somebody else beside the Rangers with his shutouts against Texas. Pretty sure Ben Zobrist isn't going anywhere. Davis reaches for it, lofts it toward left field. That's Murphy out there now, and Murphy has it. And that'll do it for the A's in the top of the 9th. They get a hit and a runner left, and we're going to the bottom of the 9th. Sonny Gray looking for the shutout. Today, but man, he has been good. 8 shutout innings, just a couple of hits, and the story with him today has been ground ball outs. 15 ground ball outs for Sonny Gray. So the Indians have just been able to do nothing with the all-star right-hander, and he's going to try to finish this thing off. He'll face Ramirez, Kipnis, and Lindor in the bottom of the 9th inning with a 2-0 lead. First pitch to Ramirez is right there for a strike.
On all rights, the Indians hitters should be trying to force Sonny Gray to throw a strike, which he just did, and try to get a base runner as they're down by 2 runs. And base runners are important at this point, not trying to pad your own stats. So Sonny Gray back-to-back great pitches to do that.
So Ramirez behind in the count 0-2. Ramirez opened the season as the Indian shortstop. Struggled, and the Indians said it's time for Francisco Lindor. That one tapped slowly right side. Davis has it, and that's the first out here in the 9th inning. Here's the 2 shutouts for Sonny Gray in his career, both coming last year, and both against the Texas Rangers. How about that?
In Texas, and that is very hard to do, especially the 162 when he won that game. That the A's were struggling all the way down the stretch. At that point, they felt that they could just get into postseason. They could make a nice run, and unfortunately, Kansas City was the one that got in and furthered everything, and they made the run. But Sonny Gray did his part to get them in to the game.
2 more outs to go as Kipnis steps in. First pitch strike to Kipnis. Kipnis has grounded out 3 times, twice to the second baseman, once to the first baseman. Missed outside that time with a breaking ball. Kind of funny. Pitcher, catcher, and hitter. An hour from now, we'll be climbing in a vehicle together. Heading to Cincinnati.
And Kipnis 3 of the 16 ground ball outs so far.
Kipnis stands pretty close to the plate. Pitch got him swinging with a breaking ball, and that is strikeout number 5 for Sonny Gray. 2 outs here in the 9th inning.
And I think there are teams in the Central and the East as Kipnis gets the hard slider from Sonny Gray. But the teams in those 2 divisions have to be thinking maybe what teams in the West think about one King Felix Hernandez, because the A's have a chance to face Felix Hernandez 6 times, and the most the Indians or any team in the East or Central could face Sonny Gray was twice. And maybe that does not happen. Sonny made his first start against the Yankees in New York to start this road trip.
And here's Lindor. Lindor has 1 of the 2 hits. He bounced a single up the middle in the 4th inning. That was the first hit off for Sonny. Strike on the outside corner, 1-1. 105 pitches for Gray. Been hit high and foul, and now Sonny Gray's got 1 more strike to get. Steps off the rubber momentarily. Now back on. He's ready, and here comes the 1-2 delivery. Strike 3 called, and that's the ball game. A gem of a performance by the All-Star Sonny Gray. A 2-hit shutout in Cleveland. Wow, what a performance by the young man. And now he can take a paid vacation to Cincinnati. Right. Well deserved. So Sonny Gray and the A's shut out the Indians, and what a performance by the right-hander. 2-0 is your final here in Cleveland. You've been watching Oakland A's baseball on Comcast Sportsnet California, part of the NBC Sports Group. Don't go away. A's postgame live with Brody Brazil and Cardi Lansford starts right now.